Welcome one and all to the rare, fantastic Thursday here on the Deranged Report. I'm John Iadarola. She is Francesca Fiorentini. Francesca, how's it going?
Hi, it's been too long, and oh my God, your hair. And I don't know if this joke's already been made, but you already were a nerd, John. But now you look like the nerd candy. You look like nerds. Like that's just what you know those little guys with the little. That's what you look like.
Yeah, so I'm both nerds with an S and now also nerds with a Z, basically.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
See, I was going for like cyberpunk hacker assassin, and I landed at dork. Unfortunately, I thought I was aimed right, and then it went that way.
I feel like you needed to have a little bit. There needed to be sort of like some kind of like buzz, like strategic buzz on the side, you know. But then you
mean
still
like go like undercut?
Exactly.
I'll do
or
it.
like a little lightning bolt.
I'll do.
Yeah, you can definitely do it.
Yeah, to avoid being called a nerd, I need an allusion to Harry Potter on my head. But anyway, look, you're saying that. I'm gonna ask you again at the end of the show because there's a chance that you'll be into it by then. I found that it grows on people. I found that it does. It's kind of growing on me. I wanted it a little bit shorter. I kept it longer so that people could see more of the purple, but it's longer than I would normally want. But anyway.
Really, I like it. You look like you taste like blue raspberry.
I would love to get through one day of my life with no one speculating about what I taste like, actually. But anyway.
Sorry, today's not the day.
But not today. Anyway, today we do have a lot of good news to talk about, or at the very least interesting news, I suppose. We have consequences for Donald Trump coming in at least 2 different forms. We have madness coming from Donald Trump in far more than 2 different forms. And then we've got the Senate being awful. That'll be fun. Debates about whether things were better under Jim Crow.
Oh boy.
My God. And a whole lot more besides. New details from not a Trump accuser, not one of the women who accused him of anything, but someone who described a thing that he did. Now, years later, providing far more damning details about what he did. And will we get Donald Trump on a bill, actual currency? Okay, so lots of fun stuff to get to. So everyone buckle up for that. Reminder that we are once again giving out Blue Apron gift cards. So send in your comments. And if they're clever or revelatory or something like that, you could earn yourself one. Okay, with that said, let's jump into the news. Donald Trump is now, of course, a convicted felon, and with that comes some consequences. Some legal, some political, some sort of striking to the core of what it supposedly means to be a conservative. For instance, the NYPD has now moved to revoke Donald Trump's license to carry a gun, which he had. He had a concealed carry permit and 3 pistols registered under the permit. Now, he has not been able to carry a gun since I think mid-2023 because of the legal process and everything that was stopped. But now they're formally moving to revoke it entirely. And that obviously is that's gonna annoy some right wingers. I don't think it's gonna super bother Donald Trump because I don't think he cares at all about guns. The idea of him holding like a revolver or something just is hilarious on its face. Come on, can you imagine him with his little gun?
I like that. He would accidentally shoot and kill Giuliani and then be like, oops, you know, but like, and then you naughty boy. Oh, these things are pretty light. You know, like that's the vibe.
There's no way, Francesca, that when he holds one of his guns or whatever, he does not make pew pew noises.
No,
100%.
100%.
He can't sit behind like the wheel of a truck without going like, awooga. He's definitely making pew pew noises, but that's the most that he can do thanks to his concealed carry permit being taken away soon. But obviously far more damaging to Trump would be the sort of consequences that hurt him in November, not in the holster, but in the election. And we might have those a little bit. So the New York Times talked to 2,000 voters who had previously been polled in April and May. And back then, this group that they talked to supported Donald Trump by 3 points. They've been recontacted since the verdicts, and now they support Trump by 1 point. What is wrong with our country? Okay, look, it's a 2-point move. We'll see if it's durable or whatever. That's not nothing. And when you break it down, it could be more significant in some of the swing states. There's been a lot of polls coming out, and we're not going to run through all of them, but there is reason to believe that Biden's position in swing states has improved since the verdict. Interestingly, while Trump overall retains about 93% of the voters who told the New York Times that they backed him in the previous survey, that means 7% he didn't, which is actually very similar to other polls. It does seem like 7% of America or 7% of Trump's supporters actually care enough about him being a convicted felon now to change. But let's break it down a little bit more. So in recent polls, Biden either leads or is within 2 points of Trump in states and districts worth the 270 electoral votes that are required to win the presidency. So it's within the possibility of Biden winning. A sliver of Mr. Trump's former supporters, about 3%, now told the New York Times they'll back Mr. Biden. 4% are undecided. They could flip, they could sit it out, they could end up supporting Donald Trump anyway. But when you break it down, pretty interesting. So the shift was especially pronounced among the young, non-white, and disengaged Democratic-leaning voters who have propelled Mr. Trump to a lead in the early polls. We've talked a lot about this. These are groups that have been supportive of Joe Biden and now really aren't feeling it. Well, a few weeks ago they weren't feeling it. Now maybe moving back to Joe Biden a little bit. So of the people who previously had told the New York Times they'd voted for Biden in 2020, but would vote for Trump in 2024, about 1 in 4 now say, no, actually, I'm gonna stick with Joe Biden. So that's only 1 in 4 of the flippers, but that's pretty good. There are other things that Biden could do to potentially get some of those back. And as you might have heard, the double haters, the people who hate both Biden and Trump, Trump lost 1/5 of the double haters who had previously voted for him. So look, none of this means the election is over and we are still months out and people could forget about this or he could be found guilty of other things. But what do you make of this so far, Francesca?
Yeah, it's not a good look for Donald Trump to be a convicted felon. I do not understand anyone trying to spin this any other way. And more interestingly, it's with these young voters of color who Donald Trump is trying to like cozy up to by being like, see, you're disproportionately incarcerated and they're going after me. Let me release sneakers. It's like, that's not working for you, bro. Like none of this is working for you. And the fact that also like he was convicted of a crime that honestly so many other rich elites probably and likely get away with, right? Falsifying your business records. This was on top of course, the now, I guess, reduced to 400 million that he had to pay in his previous trial, defrauding the New York taxpayer by overinflating his assets and whatnot. It's just like, this is not an everyday guy. This is not someone who's had a small marijuana possession and has been, hit with a massive fine over it or incarcerated unjustly. No. Yeah. He's a rich guy who thought he could just get away with doing whatever the hell, and he couldn't. And people, like, it's like very like, your little toxic ex, and you're like, am I gonna go back to the toxic ex now that he's a convicted felon? No, because conjugal visits are gonna be a whole thing, and I don't wanna do that. But
with Trump, they'd at least be brief.
Very brief. Yeah, 2.5 minutes, honestly. Or what did Stormy say? Yeah, so here's my favorite part about this, though. We cannot gloss over the NYPD taking away Trump's guns. Like, they're literally coming for his guns. The NYPD, which probably gave him the guns to begin with, let's be honest, was probably a gift. Like right under like Mayor Bloomberg's like NYPD or something. He probably has like a golden gun. They're taking it away from him. And of course they should have, because this is a guy who basically was like, what if I shot someone on 5th Avenue? There would be no consequences for that, but that was just a joke. But then also like, John, we cannot, like, the amount of just like tears that MAGA are crying right now, the amount, how much they're freaking out, the cope, they're taking away his gun. Mwah, mwah. I never saw this silver lining of all of this happening. It's so good.
I had not thought of it. Yeah, but it's like taking away his car. He was never gonna use it anyway.
He's not.
It's like taking away most of his kids. He didn't really care about them anyway. Like, what's the difference?
Right.
But they have to pretend, oh yeah, no, he's an alpha male. Oh, Trump goes bow hunting every weekend. Like, come on, this is not who he is.
Also, do they make guns with triggers that are like, small, like so tiny for the little?
tiny little ones that are supposed to fit in like the little key pocket in your jeans.
Yeah.
But anyway, speaking of support of the people, just really fast. So in the recent trials that Trump has had, as many of you know, you only need to have one juror flip to, like acquit you or whatever. He's lost 42 out of 42 in the recent criminal and civil trials. Like everybody, no, this is rigged. No, it's just he has no defense. He's obviously guilty. It's just hilarious. But that said, the cope that you alluded to is here, and not just for the gun, but the fear that he could be locked up. And it's taking ridiculous forms. Here is, and you might remember her from a previous election, Tudor Dixon.
Oh, Tudor.
I mean, this is one step away from Alexei Navalny. This is a very serious situation when you have the president of the United States taking his opposition and jailing them. What's next?
This is one step away from Alexei Navalny, the multiple-time poisoned and imprisoned Russian dissident who was killed by the Russian government. It's one step. What's the step? Trump hasn't been imprisoned. He hasn't been poisoned except willingly by himself over the course of his life with his choices in his diet. I don't think he's been killed by Vladimir Putin. And I'm pretty sure that even if he was, most of you would cheer it because you have as much loyalty to Putin as you do to Donald Trump. This is so wildly over the top. But there's a reason that Tudor Dixon, real name, I checked it, landed on this comparison. It's because it's one that Donald Trump himself has used in the past when he said in an interview, it is a form of Navalny. It is a form of communism or fascism. It's not any of those things.
Whatever.
They're different. Communism or fascism or interior decoration. It's a form of something, people. No. And God, the fact that Donald Trump, who has spent years cozying up to the sort of autocrats who do imprison or kill their opponents, like Alexei Navalny, was killed by Putin's regime, that they're like, oh, they're awesome, they're the best, they're so strong, they're so smart. And then the second you face a fine or whatever, you're like, I'm Navalny, hashtag we're all Navalny. It's like, no, you don't get to be Navalny. You love the guy who did the form of Navalny. What do you think?
Well, I just think it's funny because if Trump were a Russian dissident, let's put aside that he is absolutely not and is at this point, I think, openly colluding with Putin. If he were, let's say, a Russian dissident, he wouldn't be Navalny. He would be some dude we'd never heard of. Because Navalny withstood months and months, years in like a Siberian prison doing hard labor. Trump would have been one of the dudes that like tapped out day one. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, the shovels are, bah. I'm like he would, like no disrespect to Russian dissidents, but the guy would not have survived very long like Navalny. So I like that not only he's a political prisoner, but kind of the one who's been through the most, as if, like, come on, stolen valor, my guy.
No, he would have cracked in 5 minutes. And by the way, so would I. But anyway, that's why I'm not claiming that I'm in a form of Navalny. No, it's just so, it's like, it's not even like stolen valor. It seems bigger than that, more comical than that. Do you know who this guy is? First of all, you don't even really have to come up with a comparison to what Trump would be in the Russian context. He's one of the oligarchs here. He'd be an oligarch there. He'd be the same person that he is. He might be getting peed on more frequently in Russian hotels than he was since he was born in America, but most of his life would be exactly the same. But anyway, Tudor Dixon in that video said that she was scared of what might come next. I don't think that she actually is. First of all, she knows Trump isn't going to go to prison. He's probably still going to become president. And if he does, what comes next is exactly the sort of authoritarian stuff that people like Tudor Dixon love. Trump has been pretty openly talking about it.
But wouldn't it be terrible to throw the president's wife and the former Secretary of State? Think of it, the former Secretary of State, but the president's wife into jail. Wouldn't that be a terrible thing? But they want to do it. So, it's a terrible, terrible path that they're leading us to. And it's very possible that it's going to happen to them.
Oof.
Yeah. So along the way, it's like, no, wouldn't it be bad? So bad. I might have to do it. I might have to. They pushed me into it. I haven't been saying anything for years and years about how much I'd like to lock these same exact people up, but I might have to do it. And what I'm alluding to there is that he is continuing to lie about his open, cheered advocacy for locking up his political opponents.
Yeah.
Here it is.
A certain way, after we won against Hillary, people would say, lock her up, lock her up. And I said, wouldn't it be terrible if I locked up the wife of the President of the United States, former, and locked up the former Secretary of State? It's a terrible thing. You're starting, if you want to bring the country together.
I will say this, Hillary Clinton has to go to jail, okay? She has to go to jail. For what she's done, they should lock her up. She's disgraceful.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail. Crooked Hillary, wait. Crooked, you should lock her up, I'll tell you. That's right, lock them up. You should lock them up. Lock up the Bidens. Lock up Hillary.
Yeah, he was just saying how terrible it would be. He wasn't into it at all, Francesca.
All of this, of course, is prepping their base to get excited about things like that. But here's what's funny. Trump won in 2016, and Hillary, still a free woman. She did, but her emails, yeah, all the Lane Bryant catalogs that she pressed spam on. It's so funny to me. It's scary. So obviously I'm half scared. I'm a double hater. I hate this guy. I hate Joe Biden, but man, I don't want Trump to win again. I'm a double hater. I just hate one a little bit more than the other. But it's so funny because you're like, so here's what's great about you freaking out about your own guilty verdict is that this was a law that's on the books in New York State. You can't even fabricate something against Joe Biden to impeach him. He doesn't even need to be violating any kind of crime. You could just impeach him, right? And they hadn't it's been years they've been trying to impeach Joe Biden and they can't even get that together. What I'm saying is they want to be fascists. They're not good at it. And unless they're trying to rewrite all of the laws, which give them time because the Supreme Court is steadily and slowly doing, but we're still not quite there yet. So I am of two minds. I am saying this is scary and they're a threat, but they're also massive clowns. And Trump got caught out on some crap that he should have known he was doing, right? It's a Class E felony when you both falsify the records and then you try and cover it up. That's what made it a felony in the state of New York. So where's the stuff? Who's actually doing the research to try and get your political opponents? John, will they even have the patience to dig up and find the laws, the non-existent laws that their opposition are supposedly violating? My guess is no. So I'm simultaneously scared and also don't think they're gonna do anything.
Yeah, look, if you want to look to the 4 years of the Trump presidency and say that he didn't lock up Hillary, I think that's true. That's right. There is some indication that he tried to pressure Jeff Sessions into investigating her, but Jeff Sessions didn't want to or whatever, and that's one of the reasons he turned on Jeff Sessions. So it's not to say that he wouldn't have done it if he had the right people. And of course, he is going to have far more loyal people in terms of his administration, the head of the DOJ and all that, judges and all that. So we'll see. And we do know, while some of the theories that we had about what he would do, like locking up Hillary, didn't come true, remember that others did. Roe v. Wade was killed and he did refuse to leave the presidency. So
absolutely,
it's sort of a mixed bag there. And he's certainly threatening worse things this time around, and retribution is at the top of that list. But that said, I want to move from the sort of vague threats to just constantly focusing on what effect would he have on the domestic and international situation that we find ourselves in were he to become president. In this case, I want to talk about Israel and Gaza. Listen to this.
In that they once had.
You'll give it to them.
Yeah, I'm good. But they don't have the backing. Even Schumer has become like a Palestinian. Chuck Schumer, Jewish, always strong for Israel. He's become like a Palestinian.
Called for.
As Donald Trump interview with Sean Hannity saying that the Israeli lobby isn't as powerful as it was before. And we'll get to more of that. We have more video. But he says that Chuck Schumer, a Jewish man, is a Palestinian because he's not supportive enough the IDF or something. So first of all, being Palestinian is now an insult that you can apply to a person. It's not an identification of the geographic area that a person was born in or whatever. It's now an insult that you throw at people. And while he's dabbled with him being the one who gets to declare if Jewish people are sufficiently Jewish. He's done that for years.
Yeah.
If you vote for a Democrat, you're not really a Jewish person. Now, on a specific issue, if you disagree with him or if you disagree with Netanyahu, you don't get to be Jewish anymore. You don't even get to be American anymore. You become Palestinian. So for the many citizens of Israel that don't agree with Benjamin Netanyahu, you guys are Palestinian, according to Donald Trump. It seems sick to me. Francesca, what do you make of it?
It absolutely is sick. It's absolutely a slur in his mind. It's in lockstep with people like Senator Tom Cotton saying things like all the little Gazas in universities around this country, basically like, as if that's a bad thing. Little Gazas that basically deserve to be bombed, that have their little terrorist cells of people who don't want genocide. But I think this is deeper. I mean, Netanyahu and the Israeli right, and I would argue the Zionist project more broadly, is about calling anyone who doesn't support them full-throatedly not Jewish, including Jews. So if you're Jewish and you criticize what the state of Israel does, suddenly you're actually a self-hating Jew. You're not Jewish. I'm gonna actually look into your background. Are you really Jewish? I'm going to tear you down and smear you. And it just shows that this is not about Judaism. And anti-Zionist Jews have been crying this from the rooftop since the beginning of all of this, is that this government does not represent me and my faith. In fact, it is right wing, and the likes of Donald Trump using Palestinian as a slur and trying to wield Jewishness in the face of progressive Jews around the world is absolutely a clue. It is the hallmark of what this nation does, which actually is anti-Semitism itself.
Yeah, it's absolutely gross. I mean, look, I'm not Jewish. I don't speak for Jewish people. Individual Jewish people can decide whether they find it to be offensive or not or whatever. But like, I imagine other versions of that being applied to different groups, and I can't imagine anyone liking a person like Trump believing that he's the guy that gets to decide. But anyway, it gets worse, actually. Here's more.
So number one, they have to finish the job. Israel has to finish that job. They have to finish it quickly, strongly, and they have to get back to life again because it's taking too long. They have to finish the job.
You're saying go in, win, and finish.
You gotta win. The attack on October 7th, and it's getting more and more demeaned. They're demeaning it. I have people now telling me they don't think the attack ever happened. And take a look. You watch the news reports.
I have the
where
50
people
minutes
that are
of video.
protesting. Sure, I know you do, and so do I. But here's the thing. You watch these people on television, and then just like you have Holocaust deniers also. They say the Holocaust never took. It's the exact same people. They're saying it never happened. AOC +3. Israel was the most powerful lobby in the country 15 years ago. Today, between Tlaib and AOC and all of these people, what they're doing, Israel, they don't have the backing that they once had.
Okay, so a couple things. First of all, there was a weird cut in the middle of that. We didn't add that. Fox interviews of Trump now just feature random unexplained cuts, apparently designed to protect Donald Trump from things that he's said. So just get used to that now. Also, he implied that AOC +3, one of the worst designations he's come up with, basically the squad, are denying that October 7th happened. That is a sociopathic smear. That is a massive lie. Honestly, they should sue. They should literally sue because that is insane. They have not done that. They've never done that. That is utterly insane. But also, like, there's so much in that. Can I just
point out though briefly,
point out a way.
On that point of people denying that October 7th happened, notice that he said initially in that sentence, I'm hearing people who say October 7th never happened. Now, the way he entered that was almost like those people are people he knows, or people who are like on the ground, almost like, people like Nick Fuentes or Candace Owens. And these people also deny the Holocaust. Yeah, we know. We know they're your followers. They are Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens. Like he didn't start off smearing AOC. Maybe I'm reading it wrong.
He got to it, yeah.
It sounded like he was sort of like in the air. People are denying it even happened. Like the Holocaust. Like we know it's the anti-Semites who love you. But yes, to smear the AOC +3, John, I read it a little bit differently. And this whole AIPAC is the victim. I see it as they're running scared, man. AIPAC is putting $20 million to try and defeat Jamal Bowman in New York. They are scared to death of the squad actually trying to advocate for what? For ceasefire.
Yeah. Meanwhile, those two guys are like, no, just finish it. Just finish it and get back to life. Well, those of you who are still alive after the finishing, I guess. But the people that would die aren't really people anyway. They're just an insult I use. But like, honestly, I don't really expect any more from Donald Trump. I don't think that he can be reached. So I'm gonna turn my attention to Sean Hannity just briefly, because Sean Hannity was there. And when Trump said that, he said, yeah, get in there and win. And I have a challenge for Sean Hannity. Feel free to send him this video. I know that he likes challenges. He did MMA once, and I know that because he's never stopped talking about it. So Sean Hannity, here's a little challenge for you. What I want you to do is I want you to get yourself powerful flashlight, like one of those mag lights, you know, the things that can be used for self-defense by blinding someone. And I want you to unzip your pants, and I want you to look down into your tighty whities, and I want you to get the biggest beam of light, so you have the best chance possible of finding at least one ball in there. Why don't you say what you actually effing mean? Get in there and win. Get in there and win? What, are they playing foosball? What do you mean when you say that? What will getting in there and winning actually look like? You are fine with tens of thousands of civilians, men, women, and children, the elderly, grandmas, infants being blown apart. Then have the ball to say it. I know you'll never reach two, but maybe if you look hard enough, you shift things around, you can find one testicle so that you actually say the sociopathic things that you believe. That's my challenge to Sean Hannity.
Like no disrespect to survivors of testicular cancer, because I feel like they have more strength in that.
It's a metaphor. It's not a physical thing. It's a metaphor that I'll probably get in trouble for.
No, you
I'm
won't.
mad. I apologize.
I love a good mag light in the pants. I mean, that's very important. But I will, yeah. Look, we just saw leaked text messages from Eric Prince, again, former Blackwater mercenary head, brother to Betsy DeVos. And in that chat, the worst group chat ever, they talk about, someone says, why don't we just napalm the tunnels in Gaza? Remember, tunnels in Gaza were also used for medicine, for food, for things that were denied the Palestinian people of Gaza because of the blockade that has been in place since 2017, I believe. But it's like, there are shades here, right? Republicans, absolutely, when they want it to be done, they're like, yeah, just drop a nuke. Forget about the radiation that will immediately blow into Israel itself. This 100%. Is a very small amount of land we're talking about. But like, John, Israel just dropped a bomb on a UN school and killed 45 people yesterday. What do they want? Like, how much faster can you go? I think the IDF is going pretty damn fast.
Yeah, look, we know what they want. Again, yeah, they're calling for weapons of mass destruction to be used. They're calling for, by the way, they're getting what they want. You're getting exactly what you want on the right. An Israeli airstrike early today hit a UN school complex in central Gaza. There was a shelter for thousands of displaced Palestinians who are fleeing the fact that everywhere else has already been destroyed. Dozens of people were killed in just that. The IDF said the attack had targeted Hamas operatives. Palestinian officials said it had killed civilians. We have a big pile, you can't see it on camera. It's a big pile of oops. We're just gonna take this one and put it on top of the big pile of oops from the IDF. Oops, we killed the aid workers. Oops, we did it again. We killed dozens of civilians. Oops, hope they finish the job soon. Anyway, again, apologies for some of the things I said. I don't like seeing a billionaire talk to a millionaire about how people who have nothing aren't being killed fast enough. Okay,
you don't have to apologize. I'm sorry. I never pull the you're offending blank group on you, John, because I offend everyone. All I was thinking was like, damn, I don't think Sean Hannity would have the temerity. Like he has no, he gets paid $25 million a year.
to do this, to advocate for mass murder, and to not even, again, have whatever, the intestinal fortitude to say that's what he's doing. He is a cowardly fascist. He's a cowardly advocate for genocide.
When he gets clowned on all the time by Trump, though, that's the best thing about Hannity is like, if he's not in perfect lockstep, Trump will, because there's also a point where Trump gets a little bit like, it's uncomfortable to have people up his butt like that much.
100%, yeah.
So he starts to like shake them off sometimes. And it's always fun when he does, because then Shawnee's like, I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah.
I won't do it again.
No, honestly, look, we can advance my metaphor to help Sean Hannity out a little bit. What you do is when you're done searching down there, you take the mag light and you just leave it in your pants. That way you can pretend to have some confidence the next time that Donald Trump cucks you to your face. See, I'm trying to be helpful. I want this program to be a place of solutions.
There we go.
Anyway, we'll be back after this. And for some reason, I've never been offered a show on MSNBC. It's weird. Anyway, with that said, Koa had said, OMG, John is channeling Melissa McCarthy and The Heat. I've never seen The Heat, so I don't know specifically what that's a reference to, but now I'm curious, actually. I want to see what Melissa McCarthy says. Anyway, okay, so I had asked in the chat, I knew that yesterday on Happy Half Hour, Brett was gonna have people sort of give him advice on what form of purple his hair should take, because he has to do it too. We reached the stretch goal, okay? He said much support for faux hawk, which I like and occasionally do with my hair because there's so much stuff in it that I can do that. Many were passionate about not bleaching to the scalp. Weak, bleach to the scalp. Bleach it,
Bleach
Brett.
to the scalp.
Bleach it, Brett. Hashtag bleached Brett. That's what I want to see trending on Twitter.
But like, what if they make Brett, like, I think like you can pass for like style. What if to Brett, we like put him in, 2002, full puka shell, full like bleach blonde tips, just like puffed up, like right here, just straight something about Mary bangs. And maybe Brett, you had this when you were younger.
He says he's about frosted tips.
But I think that's like even more purgatory. I mean, not that we want this to be purgatory, but like people want to get what they paid for, and like just throwing you back there with the frosted tips. Woo.
The Guy Fieri look, Peachy Shari says 100%.
Yes.
Let's see it, okay? So he apparently did have frosted tips at one point. I gotta see that. And he definitely had a puka shell necklace. I find it incomprehensible. Lives at the beach, come on, Brett, he's got it. Anyway, let's see. Justin had said, John, I need some advice on how to get Chipotle to increase my portion size. Can you show us during the break how to do it? Oh, it's super easy. If if they're dishing it out and they don't give you quite enough, you just give them a little, And that's according to the CEO of Chipotle. Anyway, okay, let's see. James Meyer says in a super chat, Fran, much like Waz, could definitely pull off purple hair or at least purple eyeshadow, just saying.
There's always a fine line with purple eyeshadow. You a little bit look like you've got a black eye. Like there's, which, just
that's
like
true.
Not
That's
quite
true.
the look I'm going for yet.
May Money to Billy. Hey, May Money says in super chat, Flightarola rocking the perp. Francini is popping per usual. Thanks for keeping me company while I'm working at a high school in the office. Nice.
Love you.
I'm glad you're able to tune in while you're doing that. Okay, let's see. Oh, by the way, over on Twitch, Shadow Wolf gifted 10 subs. Thank you, Shadow Wolf. And Brandy Lou 2 gifted 5 subs as well. We've had a little, so thank you for that. We've had a little bit of member gifting on YouTube since the Draganathon ended, but obviously, and everyone's gonna be shocked by this, it went down a lot. Looks like maybe Twitch is now taking up the mantle, and I love to see it. Thank you.
Also, if you're like, man, where do I subscribe? Where do I become a member? How do I support? YouTube.com/FrannyFio, the Bitchuation Room. You get a bunch of access to bonus videos if you want to become a member over there. Just if you're in the giving spirit, holler.
That's one thing that you could do. Anyway, let's see. Mikey says in super chat, Francesca saying, I love a good mag light in the pants is giving me life right now. Jesus. Buaja member for 35 months says, I'm looking forward to never having to hear from or about Trump anymore. Listening to him talk makes me cringe. What does he mean when he says words? Look, it's gonna happen. He's like, there is a clock ticking. We can't see the numbers on the clock, but it is ticking downward. And eventually we get to 0. And it can't be more than 3 to 6 years away, right? I don't know. Maybe we can start a pool or something. Will we get in trouble if we do that? I'm not being specific here. Welcome back, one and all. Chaplain Fred just gifted 5 memberships. Thank you, Chaplain Fred. Okay, with that, let's jump back in the news, starting with this.
So this vote, Right to Contraception Act, failed in the Senate today. It had to get 60 to get past the procedural hurdle. 39 nays. You were one of the nays.
Yes.
So for folks who, why vote nay, and explain how that's not a bad issue for Republicans.
Yeah, this is just a shame that the Democrats are willing to try to politicize whether or not women have access to contraceptions.
I agree. It is a shame that that's the best cover that Tim Scott could come up with. So yeah, there was a Senate bill to make sure that states cannot restrict your access to contraception, because of course they shouldn't. Almost no one who's not an elected senator on the Republican side thinks that they should. And so we do the bill. And almost every Republican, only barring 2, and we'll get to that, vote to stop that. Because apparently they do want states to be able to restrict your access to contraceptives. And that, to Tim Scott, is political. Now, what he could have done alternatively is just vote in favor of it. And then it's done. And then it's not a political thing because we all agree on it, as all voters basically agree on it. But instead, he voted against it. Now, he wants you to believe it's because he doesn't want to get political or whatever. Bear in mind, he's literally trying to become VP right now. I think he's perfectly happy with politics. So arguably, there's some other reason why he voted against it. Brett Baer continues to try to dig. Let's see.
Why does he do that vote today on contraception?
Well, the polls are clear that they are losing this November election. The day of reckoning is November 5th of this year. They're doing anything they can to try to demonize the Republicans.
Yeah, you know how they're going to demonize the Republicans? They're going to point out that you voted to allow restrictions on contraceptives. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sign up for that. You could have denied me that. Instead, you gave me the ability to pitch you as the out of step ahistorical radical that you are. And much more importantly than Tim Scott, of course, is that Donald Trump also is leading the way for this. He was asked in an interview, do you support any restrictions or a person's right to contraception? Not abortion, contraception. He said, we're looking at that, and I'm gonna have a policy on that very shortly, which means he'll just do something someday. You'll never know what until it happens. He was asked a follow-up question and said, things really do have a lot to do with the states, and some states are gonna have different policy than others, which means in some states you'll have the rights that you've had literally your entire life, or you can roll the dice depending on which state you're in, and maybe you won't be able to get birth control or condoms or whatever. And you could have been protected. They could have passed that bill. But instead they didn't. And what do you know? Tim Scott agrees with Donald Trump. Now they don't want to admit that, but that is what they did, and they will be attacked for it, and that is totally fair. Francesca, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I mean, again, Republicans do it to themselves. You know, I wish I could say that Joe Biden's vision for America has been amazing and transformative, and there's been some small pieces of legislation that have been good. But really, what he's running on and what he should be running on is not rolling back a fundamental right that not just women, but all people have had access to: abortion and now contraception. Again, we all know they won't stop at abortion. They continuing to go for contraception. And I take issue with Tim Scott saying for women, because this bill was not about women. And what do men around this country want? Like not being able to access condoms or anything? So like you want to pay child support for a bunch of like, kids that you never wanted? But no, but then the right's gonna like browbeat you about being like a failed dad and a deadbeat dad and like what? This is ridiculous. And it absolutely is a violation of a right to privacy. This is the most clear violation of the right to privacy. If you truly believed in small government, you would stand up for the right to contraception, to an abortion, and to do whatever the hell you want with your intimate partners. It's just, and decide when you want to have a family. It is just clear Christian nationalist psycho crap that doesn't hit. People don't 100%. Like it, and especially the people that Trump needs. Again, we know suburban women.
Yeah, and I want to get into those consequences because he keeps undercutting himself. But I want to talk about the end result of the vote. So the Republicans successfully blocked a bill that would have protected your access to contraception, your ability to get birth control, condoms, those sorts of things. It was the Right to Contraception Act. It would just prohibit local, state, or federal governments from restricting access to it. It should be the most obvious thing in the world to regular people, both Democrats and Republicans. It is, but unfortunately, the Republican senators are out of their GD mind. And so everyone but two voted against it. Two voted present. That is Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, which means because every bill is automatically filibustered, it failed. We don't even call it a filibuster anymore. The media doesn't even point out that this used to be considered a last-ditch emergency radical thing to do. It's just automatic, even for stuff that, oh, what do you know, 80% of voters agree with.
Yep.
80%. 72% of Republican voters agree with it. But what are we living in a democracy or something? Go F yourself, Republican voters. Your elected officials don't care about you. But look, a lot of people are gonna be really surprised by this, but they shouldn't be. Just because regular Republicans don't agree with this doesn't really mean much when Republican elites do. Justice Clarence Thomas had said the SCOTUS should reconsider contraception rulings as well as same-sex marriage, because again, precedent no longer means anything. This is an activist Supreme Court, that's just what it is. And they've been on the media side trying to pave the way for this too. You know, they're not sending their best or whatever, but Michael Knowles is advocating for the right to contraception being taken away. And over the last 6 months, Steve Bannon, Ben Shapiro, and Tim Pool have also been demonizing the right to access to contraception. Because as we said, when they killed Roe v. Wade, they aren't just going to stop and they're all like, no, we're not coming for anything else. Well, maybe we'll ban IVF in a few states, and oh, maybe no-fault divorce should go away, and maybe we can have sort of federally mandated arranged marriages, and also you shouldn't be able to buy condoms, and what's our next thing? I want something. And look, this is definitely gonna hurt them in the election, and they can't help it. Trump, in an interview yesterday, was bragging about killing Roe v. Wade again. He just keeps reminding everyone of something that has doomed so many Republican candidacies over the past few years.
Yeah, I mean, the Biden ads write themselves. I like how the right is like, if I'm not having sex, no one can. Like that's basically their attitude. If I'm an incel, everyone should be. Like look, it is not partisan as John said, but if you're running on a no sex line in the year 2024, it's just not cool. Like, I don't know how to explain this to you guys. Yeah, bodily autonomy this, a long 50-year right that. Just not cool. Nobody wants to like the no sex platform. It doesn't work. The chicks don't like it specifically. And I think Steve Bannon should be very much in favor of condoms now that it looks like he has to report to prison on July 1st. That just broke while we were live.
It did, yes. And I agree, it's not cool. It's why like Ted Cruz trying to ban porn or whatever when he's clearly a fan of it didn't make any sense. The only time you can get
that
most
was an
people,
aid.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Well, with that said, I think we need to take our second break of the hour. When we come back, we're gonna fit in a couple more stories. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this. Okay, everyone, couple things behind the scenes before we move on. I think that let's do Byron Donalds, I think, and then we'll probably get to Tuberville. I think the VP list might have to wait until tomorrow, but we'll see what happens. But with that said, I saw Lady F&T gifted 5 memberships. Thank you, Lady F&T. Lady F&T was on our leaderboard in the third position.
Who won? Did Gabby finally win?
Gabby, yes, won, but by a good clip, actually. Although the second place was super high too. The top 3 were all very, very high. And so people are now reaching out to us about the individual reward they want. So Lady F&T, it is now your turn. If you want to email to rewards, plural, rewards@tyt.com with your handle, then we can communicate back and forth and make sure that you get hooked up and get everything that you deserve.
Or do they get demands now? Is it like, no, I want a calendar, no, I want.
Well, we'll see. If they want to throw their weight around, they can. But we had a list.
My face on his bicep.
Oh my God. We'll see what I can do. I only have so much skin. Anyway, okay, and with that, I wanted to read. No, I'm gonna wait until we're back on the show because I realized the podcast doesn't actually listen to this section, so I'll wait for that. But I'm gonna get into some of your comments right now. Let's see. And by the way, Lady F&T, when you email us, if you want to be reminded of what the rewards are, we can send that to you. So just let us know. Okay, Gabby Marita says in the members' comments, Tudor Dixon sounds like the name of a basset hound guard dog that watches over a plantation museum in South Carolina that glorifies slavery. That just kept going and I loved it. That was awesome. Galfar says, we are the double haters. Yeah, honestly, the double haters could just be the viewership of TYT generally and probably the Bitchuation Room. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay,
I need that shirt. Double hater is very.
Double haters, yeah. LP Revolt Dragon says, Trump, you gonna tell people how to fight a war like you did in Vietnam? Yeah, 100%. You know, they would just finish them, but they've probably got bone spurs.
They've got bone spurs.
Okay, Fushiguro says in a super chat, and as a member, thank you, says, if you can convince Hannity to spar in MMA, conservative versus progressive, I'll sub in for any one of you guys. That's awesome. I would consider it. I would think about it. If I had like a month to prep, I'd consider it, but feel free to take the spot. By the way, really fast, I just have to say, because we don't get a lot of chance to talk. Any chance you saw John Oliver this week, Francesca?
No,
the episode on Modi? Oh, it had a great joke about
I saw
Bill
clips.
Maher. Okay.
Oh, really? Ooh.
Yeah, you got to see it. It was great. It just every time I watch, he says something that is so particular to what I think and feel. I'm just like, I feel like we're related or maybe the same person.
But like it's that horrible feeling where you're like, but we'd be best friends if we met.
We totally would be best friends. John Oliver, let's hang out. You know he likes board games. Come on, look at him.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's play. I certainly do. Okay, Dragoon Dragon, member for 16 months, says, 2 of my favorite people on my favorite show. Hope you're still reading to your wee one, John. I am. It's hard to get her to sit still for reading now because she is so crawly and so standy, but I still do as much as I can. And eventually there'll be more of it. It's just, she moves a lot more. I used to have a captive audience. Also, Brett sent a photo of him in, I'm gonna assume, high school with his frosted tips, and he looks like the junior member of a boy band. And it's awesome, I love it. Mikey says in a super chat, guns don't kill people, condoms kill people, 100%. You have a right to an AR-15, you do not have a right to the pill or to a condom. It's so ridiculous, but that's the country we live in.
Arm women.
Okay.
If he tries anything in the bedroom, you know where to put that. That's not going here. That's going, you know what I'm saying?
Ew.
That's how babies are made, John.
Okay, everybody, let's talk. First, since we're in a place where the podcast can hear this, I wanna read, we got a new podcast review. Reviews on Apple Podcasts are literally like my favorite feedback. They're usually very positive. In this case, it is 5 stars, but House Pop-Tart left a comment that just says, but anyway, ... and I feel roasted by that comment, but thank you for it. No, we love getting the ratings and the reviews. If you have listened to or are listening to us as a podcast, I know you probably got to click on a thing and then type a thing or whatever, but click on the thing and type the thing because we love getting those and it really helps with discoverability of the podcast. And with that, let's jump into more news, starting with this.
There were a lot of people who heard what you had to say, and a lot of them are offended by the idea that you would repeat Jim Crow 3 times in your comments as if to suggest that that was a time period because that Black families were, in your words, together, because in your words, Black people were not just more conservative, they voted more conservatively. That's a good thing. I mean, it sounds like nostalgia. Do you regret using that time frame as a reference?
So that is Byron Donalds, who is now facing criticism for his bizarre commentary about Jim Crow. And he's going to give a little bit of a response, but understand the context here. He wants to be chosen to be VP. It doesn't look like that's gonna happen, but that's the goal. And if you had that very difficult goal, being Byron Donalds, how would you stand out to Donald Trump and other senior Republicans? I don't know, you might plausibly make some super weird revisionist history comments about Jim Crow. But that said, here's his response to Abby Phillips.
Nobody ever made nostalgia. That was never the point. It wasn't even about that. So where now I'm gonna get my backup is, I didn't say that. I didn't even insinuate that. That is where the media and yes, Hakeem Jeffries and a lot of other people are taking
What exactly didn't you insinuate?
No,
I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. What didn't you insinuate?
The premise of your question, I did not insinuate. That is what people are trying to weave into what I said. What I said is crystal clear. It's on my social media. Go to @Byron Donalds on X. You can see the full clip.
Okay, so he's got his backup because he's very, very tough. All these politicians are very, very tough. So that's not what I said. I didn't say that. I didn't insinuate that. I didn't imply that. Okay, well, let's go to his original commentary and we'll see what he did or didn't insinuate.
So one of the things that's actually happening in our culture, which you're now starting to see in our politics, is the reinvigoration of black families with younger black men and black women. And that is also helping to breed the revival of a black middle class in America. You see, during Jim Crow, the black family was together.
That's right.
During Jim Crow, more black people were not just conservative, because black people are always a bit conservative-minded, but more black people voted conservatively. And then HEW, Lyndon Johnson, and then you go down that road, and now we are where we are. What's happened in America the last 10 years, and I say it because it's my contemporaries, it's Wesley's contemporaries, you're starting to see more black people be married in homes, raising kids. It's when you home with your wife raising your kids, and then you look at the world, you're saying, now wait a minute, time out. This does not look right.
It doesn't look right because that was nostalgia. I mean, I'm not saying that he's saying let's go back to that, but he brought up a horrible time and only talked about how the great things that were there. You could maybe talk about some of the bad things. There was some bad aspects to it, I think. So that does come off like nostalgia when you go back to this time and you imply that simply because people were conservative that was better, and that outweighs all of the systemic and structural racism, the individual bigotry, the lynchings, you could go on and on at book length, and many, many, many people have. That's a weird comment to make, I think. And also, just really fast, I also hate the fact that it plays into some of the tropes about like black families, like especially black fathers not being involved in like the lives of their kids. I was at one point writing a book about weird myths that are just accepted in our politics. And by the way, actual surveys, actual studies show that black fathers are generally more involved in the lives of their children than any other racial group. And it's so bizarre that America popularly believes the exact opposite of that. And so I think that people should fight back against that myth, but there's a whole lot of weird mythologizing going on there. What do you make of it, Francesca?
I have a lot of thoughts, but I think for me, I don't know what he was saying at the end there. I'm willing to believe that maybe that clip went on, but maybe only for my sanity to imagine that he sort of like saved himself. A couple things stand out. One is that he then says, we were more together then, and the family was more together under Jim Crow, and then Johnson and whatever. No. And then the civil rights movement, and then MLK Jr., and then Rosa Parks, and then Ella Baker, and then all of these incredible black leaders fought for your ass to be sitting where you're sitting and smoking a cigar and on the mic right now. Like, I'm sorry, but he just single-handedly threw under the bus the entire movement that transformed this country and laid it all on the steps of Lyndon Johnson. Like, what are you talking about, dude? And then the other thing that I think is really sick, and I see this with the feminist movement as well, and anti-feminist female influencers, is that they see that the promise of feminism, or what he's saying, the promise of integration, the promise of equality, actually hasn't delivered for black Americans, or in the case of feminism, hasn't delivered equal pay for equal work. And what these reactionaries do is they try and sell their own communities on saying, actually, maybe it was better before when we didn't have equal rights and we were just subservient, because at least we had like our place, or like we knew our role, or at least we were, our masters were kind to us, or the white people were kind to us, if we did certain jobs, right? And the same thing with the anti-feminist backlash. They're convincing you, instead of moving forward with the project of real equality, instead of moving forward and actually deepening the civil rights movement or the feminist movement, and actually tackling some of the stuff that's structurally keeping folks back. It's no. Let's run back to when we were subservient. Let's run back to second-class citizenship because it was better back then, which is also wildly untrue.
Yeah, and look, again, you could have had a version of what he said with nuance or an accurate understanding of what parties were advocating for what at that time, and you could talk about all about that. You could talk about what the current Republican and Democratic parties are doing for different communities. You can do all of that. He didn't. He gave a super simplistic, selective reading of the history to imply that if Black Americans become conservative, then all of a sudden everything will be great. And by the way, I wouldn't be so critical necessarily of what he leaves out of his argument if he didn't go on to make the case in that interview with Abby Phillips that he says himself, I'm one of the best communicators in the Republican Party. Like, you're the one saying that. You left a lot of people with a very fair read of what you said, that there was some nostalgia for a bizarre concept of what life under Jim Crow was like. And so there, I think it's a little bit fair for people to be more critical. In any event, I think we're gonna go over by like a minute just so we can get to one more story. Whenever ready, let's jump into the G block.
How many TV clips have you seen of a battle in Ukraine? Zero in the last 6, 7, 8 months. It's one-sided. Putin just kind of sitting back, watching what's going on, wondering, hey, when y'all gonna come over and we'll draw a line here. He doesn't want Ukraine. He doesn't want Europe. Hell, he's got enough land of his own. He just wants to make sure that he does not have United States weapons in Ukraine pointing at Moscow.
Yeah, a couple.
Tommy Tuberville is not only automatically the dumbest person in any group of humans that he's in, when he is around farm animals, he's middle of the pack at best. Like, there's definitely, like, pigs have emotional intelligence and stuff like that. They can sometimes open up locks. There's no way you're telling me Tommy Tuberville is as smart as your average pig. Not even like a pig that had a good upbringing and a good education, just a regular run of the mill, laying in the muck pig, mucking it up. Tommy Tuberville belongs in the muck more than the pig does. I would send the pig to Washington. But that's his read about Ukraine and about what Putin wants. Putin doesn't want it. He's got plenty of land already. Dear God. Also, how many videos have you seen? Well, clearly there's no war because Tommy Tuberville hasn't seen the video. Russia lost nearly 40,000 fighters last month, okay? Now, you can decide whether that makes it a one-sided war or whatever, but the war is definitely on. Cities are being bombed. They're being struck with missiles. Ukraine is fighting back, including striking into Russian territory. Does he know that any of this is going on? Literally, does he know anything about the situation there? Francesca.
No, I mean, all of it is to paint Putin as some sort of dove. Like, he actually just wants peace. I mean, when I see that clip, obviously the massive stupidity, like not understanding or paying attention to anything that's going on, but also it's political and it is complete weakness. The Republican Party, the vast majority of them have been told or believe or no, their line is Putin's a good guy. He's our friend, and we're absolutely okay with the former president and now the leader of our party cozying up to Putin and doing all kinds of things, right? And the first thing, obviously, was in 2016 or 2015, changing the GOP party platform to say that if Russia invades Ukraine, the GOP says that they will not get involved and they'll allow it to happen and they will not arm Ukraine. And and it's just like, so pay attention to how massively compromised the Republican Party is by the Russian government. And also, like, Putin's openly said he wants Ukraine. He's not gonna get it all. He will likely, if it ends, get a portion of Ukraine, right? And this is sort of like the question now, is Ukraine gonna be able to take back some of its region or the Donbass and whatnot? But like, it's like, no, that's exactly what he wants. He said it from the beginning, that's what he wants.
Well, and at least if that happens, then we won't have to worry anymore, because right now you have the border between Ukraine and Russia, and he's uncomfortable because there are weapons on that side. But now if they carve out some of Ukraine and then they have that, now you have the line between Ukraine and Russia, and then the bombs will be there and he'll still have the same justification. Wait, and even if he took all of Ukraine, then the next country over would have weapons. Wait, this seems kind of convenient from Putin's point of view. What's not convenient, by the way, and I'll only throw this out there to remind him that I provided Putin a very easy solution to this a long time ago, and I'll remind you of that in a sec. But they lost 40,000 fighters last month. They lost in one day 1,290 troops, over 100 vehicles, and 65 artillery systems. Since February 2022, they have had over 500,000 casualties. Totally needless, totally has nothing to do with the Russian people. They gain nothing from any of this. And the solution is what it always has been. Go that way. Just turn around and go to the east and then keep going to the east until you hit Moscow or whatever. And then that will be it. And you'll have lost hundreds of thousands of people and tons of money, and it'll be just really bad for the Russian people, but at least they won't lose anymore. And they're only dying for the benefit, the glorification in an ideological sense, or perhaps the economic benefit of Vladimir Putin and some Russian oligarchs who are already doing pretty well. There's a plausible case to be made that Vladimir Putin is the richest person in the world. I think he'll be fine either way. So just go, just leave. Maybe that's simple, but it actually would solve the problem.
Yeah.
Anyway, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for the first hour of the show. More to come in the aftermath, everyone. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Aftermath, one and all. Lots of news to talk about. But first, I want to talk about you, specifically you, Frank Morningtree, who gifted 10 subs over on Twitch. Thank you for that. You can call me Jess. I've been with us for 3 months. Thank you. Brett Ehrlich has been a subscriber for 39 months. Thank you, Brett. Glad to have you there. I was worried he might have left. Okay, let's see. Okay. Oh, Lady FNT says in Super Chat, my hair has been a plethora of colors with purple always being dominant. I'm 64 and my hair is still popping. That's awesome. Yeah, ever since I got mine dyed, like people who also have it dyed or have had it dyed have come up to me multiple times, like out and about. I'm drawing a lot more attention, most of it positive. Not all
you
of
are?
it, but anyway. Yeah, no, if you, some people have said stuff at like
What's the
this
question?
little restaurant.
What's the question? Like, wow, do you drive a motorcycle?
What's wrong with you? Is
Ride
mostly, and I take that as a compliment. But anyway, CK Progressive says in Super Chat, I forgot Tudor Dixon existed since she lost her bid to be Michigan's governor in 2022. Gretchen Whitmer easily won a re-election that year. Yeah. Some of them managed to sort of just stay in this, like, it's like Carrie Lake also just lost the race and she's still around. Or is she? Okay. We're gonna
is she just
transition to our
AI?
next top.
Yes.
Maybe she's a lizard clone. But anyway, let's move into this next story and we'll talk a little bit about Carrie Lake. The Trump campaign has reportedly finalized their list of the 8 contenders for the VP spot. So the speculation can end, supposedly. They're now actively requesting financial and biographical information on these 8 people to vet them, to make sure that none of them have done anything financially wrong or done anything foul in their personal life, because this ticket has to be spick and span. But anyway, I know, I love that they get vetted, but Trump is immune to literally any of that. So those that are on the list, which we're gonna show you, are not very surprising. But those who aren't on the list, that's a little bit more fun. So here's the list in no particular order, but you can come up with an order that you think applies to this. JD Vance, Doug Burgum, a guy whose name you forget as soon as you finish saying it, Marco Rubio, Tim Scott, Ben Carson, a late addition, Elise Stefanik, not gonna happen, Byron Donalds.
He's there, okay.
He of the Jim Crow revisionist history, and Tom Cotton, who had not been on the list or in the discussions for months, but then he advocated for protesters to be murdered in the streets, and so that shot him up the ranks. So that's your 8. But wait, there are some names that aren't on that list. Marjorie Greene is not on the list. Hey, Marge, thank you for watching. Not on the list, though. You're on our list of viewers. You're not on the list for VP. No Carrie Lake. Looks like she was spending all the time in Mar-a-Lago for nothing.
I don't like losers.
Don't like losers, and she is a loser.
Too thirsty. She's always accosting me.
So thirsty.
On the golf
And I don't
course.
trust her. I see her in the video. She's very blurry. I don't trust the blurry.
Yeah, what is
Anyway, Vivek Ramaswamy, not on the list. I don't even think he's surprised by that. And Kristi Noem is not on the list, which probably fills her with rage, which means if you're a dog, run for the hills. She's not happy right now.
Or a goat.
So anyway, that's your list. What do you think?
Don't ever forget about the goat. This is great. I mean, look, if I were to, you want to put top 3 on there? Rubio's not getting it. That's just not gonna happen, my guy. Not gonna happen. Carson, not gonna happen. I say Vance, Stefanik, and Cotton. It's not gonna happen for Tim Scott. It's not gonna happen for Donalds. Stefanik is a really good choice. She's been extra heinous lately. She's a woman, so hey. But I don't know. I think Noam could have been on there, but then the whole pew pew, that thing. But I think Cotton's proven himself to be truly disgusting, like true MAGA. He always was horrible, but now it's like, oh, maybe he's like pre-MAGA, like he kind of coming into it. And JD Vance says that bootlicking, can get all the hillbillies together and give them a bad name, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I feel a little bit differently. First of all, I'm surprised.
Really?
Like Katie Britt somewhere is like, damn it, I screwed myself. But like, Elise Stefanik is the only woman on the list, and I don't think she has a chance to me. I mean, we disagree there, but like, I guess if he wants to be able to say like technically it shows a woman, but what is she bringing? What is she
doesn't bring New
doing? What is
York.
she known for?
She's not.
She's not going to win New York. Like that's
exactly
ridiculous.
But she's a good attack dog. Sorry to interrupt, but I think she's a great attack dog.
I suppose. First of all, to undercut my premise here, you don't think that Donald Trump would love to drop a list like this and then come out with some random pick at the RNC? Like he would love that. He would love that. But if it is this list, I don't think he picks JD Vance because JD Vance is too impressed with himself. I think the Hitler thing sticks. And if I was Donald Trump, I'd be worried that we'd get elected, then JD Vance would have me killed in my sleep. So I don't think that. Doug Burgum, you can't have someone as your VP if you forget who they are. You just can't. Marco Rubio, forget about it.
Yeah.
I think Tom Cotton, if you want someone who'll be the best like colonel in the beginning of like the end of democracy, the rise of fascism, and all that,
Goebbels.
he would happily, the best Goebbels. Byron Donalds, I don't think. I think Tim Scott and Ben Carson, I think have a good chance because neither of them will challenge him. They don't physically have the ability. I think that he's always liked Ben Carson, despite the fact that Ben Carson led him in the 2016 primary very briefly. I think that Tim Scott is still a good choice. He's never gonna try to one-up Donald Trump. He won't mind if Trump tries to have him killed by his supporters. Like,
yeah, there's a really tasteless joke in the waiting there, but yes, and I disagree. I think Tim Scott's in the too thirsty category. And
maybe.
I also think he's a black man. Like, it's just, I'm sorry, it's a racist party. Like, come on now.
I think
Tim
that
Scott knows that there's a ceiling, and it ain't Veep. He's not going to be there. And by the way, he wouldn't be the first black Veep, so that's also fine.
That's true. I could see it though, because yes, it's a deeply racist party, but they like having categories for people who are acceptable because they allow themselves to be put in that category. I think that they would like that. It makes them feel good to be able to put people in those categories.
No, and I think
if they think it would help him with independence.
And I think governability. First of all, I need to just name that John and I are talking about like a second Trump administration, like we're talking about brunch. And I recognize how awful this is, and we will be absolutely, at least I will be on the streets fighting this. This is awful. However,
I'm tired.
If Tim Scott, you're right that like having a minority, having, a woman does help like kind of greenlight the fascistic turn that Trump, the like extra fascistic turn that he's gonna take in the second administration to be like, no, it's all cool with me. Is it good with you that we're locking up your community? Yep, all good, right? Like that I think is part of it.
Look, I'm gonna conclude with two things. First, on Elise Stefanik, I can see why he would want to have a woman. Okay, I can see that. First of all, a lot of the election is gonna be about the fact that they're rolling back rights for women. He also was found guilty of sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll, and he lost the trial that had to do with him having an affair on Melania. He might want to sort of counterbalance that a little bit by saying like, "Hey, sure, Melania won't stand near me, but this broad will." Like, I can see that being appealing to Trump. I just don't see why it would be Elise Stefanik. There's got to be someone else, and Anna Paulina Luna or something. But the other thing I want to close on.
She's like, he's gonna need someone smart. Like, who on that list is actually smart? Truly, like maybe
JD
Tom
Vance
Cotton,
is conniving.
Right, I think Vance is smart. I think Stefanik is smart. I mean, again, maybe I'm just like, who would I choose? But like, I think Tom Cotton, very dumb, but very, very like, again, Hitlery.
He's down to fash. He's down to fash.
Down to fash.
Okay, well, with that, we are running behind. So we need to jump to our next story. We're gonna talk about some more of the bad news that might lead him to wanting to have Elise Stefanik in just a sec. But first, Joe Gutierrez gifted 5 memberships over on YouTube. Look at Joe Gutierrez gifting a bunch during the Draganathon and still gifting now. I love to see it. And by the way, Eric For Real, member for 4 months, says, I just got gifted another membership for the second month in a row. I just want to say thank you so much. This community is so amazing. I love to see it. Okay, with that, let's jump now to this. Jennifer Murphy is a name that you might recall. She is the 26-year-old beauty queen at the time of the taping of a season of Apprentice that made some comments about Donald Trump a few years back. So she had spoken out about Trump's affection for her previously, claiming that he gave her a little kiss, okay? But now, in interviews with an author who has a forthcoming book, she's willing to divulge more details about this. She says that when she first met Trump, she felt like he was treating her like a protege. She said, quote, "I think he looked at me in a way like he does his daughter," which sends a cold shiver running up my spine. Quote, "But also, I did think he had the hots for me a bit." I would like to edit that sentence. He looked at you like he looked at his daughter, and he had the hots for you. There's no but needed.
I think it's ergo. And thus.
Yes. Now, while she previously spoke about the little kiss, now she says Trump also, quote, invited her to his room at the Beverly Hills Hotel. She declined the invitation because he was married to his current wife, Melania, and she said, "I have a conscience," implying that the invitation was for sex, because of course it was. Quote, "I have integrity. I made up a reason I was busy." So this was back, apparently, well, the season that she was on when this was happening began in September 2005. It was 8 months to the day that Trump married his third wife, 6 months before she gave birth to their son, which, based on my loose understanding of the gestational period of humans, means that she was 3 months pregnant. He probably had discovered that she was pregnant like 2 to 4 months before. And then he was like, well, who can I sleep with now? And so apparently he went looking for one of the contestants of The Apprentice. Because by the way, remember, that was the scam that he tried to run on Stormy Daniels. He clearly saw this show as a way to pretend that he was going to provide business opportunities to women that he just wanted to sleep with. Now, I want to be very clear. She is not like a Trump accuser. He tried to kiss her and she rejected it. He tried to have her come to her room and she didn't do it. She's not claiming that she was harassed or that she was assaulted or anything like that. She's just revealing what happened to her. And it's part of this pattern that, especially around this time, he was just routinely going off to find women or whatever. And I don't know at this point if this is the sort of thing that could hurt Donald Trump. I think everybody knows he's a serial cheater or whatever. But it is interesting that she waited so long to reveal this. She had previously been angry when people speculated beyond the kiss that she'd revealed, but now she's just spilling the beans. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious as to whether the NDA applied to her as well when it came to The Apprentice. We now know that he said the N-word on the set because the NDA of 20-year NDA around The Apprentice has expired. So is this part of that? I don't know.
I don't know.
I think you're right. Like, look, is any of this illegal? No. Is this sexual abuse like E. Jean Carroll? No. It's not even what happened with Stormy Daniels because, well, one, nothing happened. But it does just show his character, which he's a slime ball. He's a creep. And he routinely wields his power over women in order to try and sleep with them, and that's it. And his wife was pregnant at the time. It's just like, his wife, he was married. She was pregnant, like it just doesn't look good. I'm not trying to moralize here, and none of this is illegal. If this makes you look at Donald Trump and say, yeah, because he's a real man, and every real man cheats on his pregnant wife. We all know that, like whatever. If that gets you, like, fine, go out and vote for that. A lot of Americans see that and are like, that's trashy. It's trashy behavior.
Yeah, you're totally right. Like this, this doesn't disqualify him for the presidency any more than 1,000 other things he's done should. But so he is. He's just he married her 8 months prior. He just found out he's having another kid, and he's like, what should I do? Oh, you. That's what. I just don't understand it. Like, and again, she doesn't even seem to dislike Donald Trump. She did an interview with Aaron Burnett where she's saying that he tried to kiss her, and then eventually, like, he let her get a discount to do a wedding at one of his properties. Then she says, he put his arm around me. It was off camera. I think he smacked my butt a little. I was like, goodness gracious. It's just like, again, it just is who he is. This is who he is and what he thinks of the slim majority of humans. He thinks that's what they're there for.
But
I touch him, I grab him, I slap him, I kiss him, I do whatever I want. I don't care.
I'm
That's
Italian,
why I got rich.
except I'm not. I just love the Cuomo. I kiss a lot of people. Wait, can we just stop down and recognize that throughout all of Trump's like interactions with women, there is one constant, and that is he compares them to his daughter, and how utterly disgusting and openly like like incestuous that is, and he's done this for decades, and that we're supposed to get grossed out because Biden smells people's hair occasionally or like does a kiss on the head. Like, I'm not trying to excuse Biden's behavior, but it is so funny that the right wants us to like focus on him smelling people. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. At least he doesn't say, you look like my daughter, wanna come to my hotel room time and again. Like,
yeah,
but we're supposed to be mad. He's gonna get rid of the pedophiles and the groomers and all the like. What are you talking about?
How many times do you get to try to bang someone that you say looks like your daughter, reminds you of your daughter, before it becomes a pattern or an issue?
Every single
it's not a rhetorical question.
Stormy Daniels, like
Karen McDougal, this woman.
Yes, yeah. This woman. Stormy. That's 3 we know of. Who knows
all
what
the stuff he said about his daughter? Like,
yes, on Howard Stern. If she was my daughter, I'd probably be dating her. Like on The View, he said that. Joy Behar said it was gross. Like we have all of the instances.
Yeah, I want to say what we have in common is sex, but obviously it's not that. While she's sitting next to, look, I'm not one of those people that's like he's banged his daughter or whatever. I know some people say that. I don't think that he has. But for all of the obsession with pedophilia that this country has had over the past few years, no one has made as weird comments as Donald Trump. There's no one in or out of public life that has said as many uniquely, deeply, horrifyingly bizarre things about your own daughter. I have a daughter, okay? I cannot conceive of saying one syllable of one sentence that he just routinely says.
Sexualizing her. Just imagine sexualizing her.
Not
to
even
the public.
Like when he's so off camera. He does it in interviews, Francesca. He wants you to know what he thinks about his daughter. It's so weird. Anyway, let's end with something light and something stupid, okay? Let's jump to this with the few minutes we have remaining. Arizona Representative Paul Gosar has moved on from routinely just licking Donald Trump's boots to just trying to stick the entire thing in there. And the form that came in is that he's sponsoring a new bill, okay? Is it a bill to help people who are struggling economically or something? No, of course it's not. He wants to put Donald Trump on a new $500 banknote. That's what he wants to do. It is the Treasury Reserve Unveiling Memorable Portrait Act, which is a minute's worth of thinking about how to get it to spell out the Trump Act of 2024.
That is way more. Treasury Reserve Unveiling Memorable Portrait.
Gosar, you are a pathetic little worm. You're a politicuck. You're enthusiastically a politicuck. Like, you can look up to politicians or whatever, but this is sad. This is kink level stuff. What you're doing, and again, not to kink shame. Just say it's your kink, and then I'll be fine with it or whatever.
No, but John, we have Trump derangement syndrome. Remember?
Clearly, we have Trump derangement syndrome. He's doing the Trump Act. Okay, so here's what he says about why we need a $500 bill, which is definitely the sort of bill that you do when you're a populist and you care about the regular man. You think there aren't enough huge denominations for me. He says, as Bidenflation continues to devalue our currency, it's greedflation. Corporations are screwing people over. Gosar doesn't want to do anything to stop them, just to be very clear about that. The issuance of $500 bills featuring President Trump by the Treasury offers several practical advantages. The idea of bringing back the larger denomination has Gosar banking on it to empower Americans with the freedom of more tangible options to save and exchange goods and services. Yeah, I've just been so hampered by like, how many hundreds I have to have in a stack, and then like the rubber band snaps and my hundreds fly into the air and blow away down the city street and go into the sewer, and it's just impractical. I need a $500 bill is what I need. But anyway, it's real. Here's the bill. You can it's a real, that's what he's spending his time on. There has not been a $500 bill since 1969 because people didn't use it because that was crazy. $100 bill is the largest US bill and currently in use because, first of all, who uses cash and who has that much cash and what the hell is going on with their life? But anyway, some people have had fun with this. Here's a elongated muskrat who gave a suggestion what it could look like, fitting that it's orange. But I want to go to Brett Ehrlich, who has provided some mock-ups of what this could look like. And I think you could go with the realistic look. Oof. I think that's not bad.
Yikes.
I think that you did too much of a glow up on Trump to make him look artificially hot, Brett. So dial it back a little bit. And then you have the more realistic sort of like graphic art in this one, which I could see that actually. It's got sort of like a Rocky, like under Saddam Hussein sort of feel to it. I think that could work. I'm signing on to Paul Gosar. I don't know, and I don't want to know.
That's just like a little bit of lunch, which is very.
Did you see the video of him foaming at the mouth while giving a speech?
That's right. That's right.
So maybe it's the foam. I don't know.
Well, what's interesting about this to me is that we're in a time where the right is claiming that we live in a banana republic. We live in, a third world country because the president is a convicted felon now. And it's like, no, man, that is, first of all, this country joined the entire Americas when Donald Trump even started running for president. We have a celebrity billionaire. Are you kidding me? But the other thing is that, so-called third world countries, global south countries, because their inflation is so wildly bad, issue these bigger notes, which I think is really funny. So it is almost fitting. We don't need a $500 bill. People don't even use cash anymore. But surely, and this is thanks to being the global hegemon, our economy actually is incredibly strong. And we don't need a $500 bill in circulation because it has not been devalued the way that Gosar thinks. But it is funny that were we to devalue it, Trump's face should be on it because that is sort of like the emblem of like a country whose economy has been destroyed and like the banana republic that they claim we are.
First of all, this time has been very tough on the store, Banana Republic, which they've been through a lot. But anyway, I wonder how big of a stack of the Trump bills you'd need to make what he owes E. Jean Carroll.
I know.
Or what he owes New York for his fraud case. That would be a lot of his bills. Anyway, Gosar, you sad, creepy little worm.
Creepy little
You're just the most pathetic sort of guy. The right loves to talk about how we need men back. Dude, look at your people in politics and media. Yeah, maybe we do need men back because he ain't got any. Anyway, with that said, that's all the time we have for the show. Francesca, as always, pleasure to have you. Where can people see you next?
Hey, see me live Friday tomorrow at youtube.com/FrannyFio or twitch.tv/FrannyFio. Listen to the Bitchuation Room wherever you get your podcasts. And yeah, thank you so much, John.
Nice, thank you. We're glad to be able to catch you on a Thursday, and we'll see you next Monday.
Yes, I shan't miss it.
You shan't.
Damn it.
Or else. Tomorrow is Friday. We're gonna be throwing away our garbage people of the week. And so it's time to head over to the community tab at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can choose the community garbage person of the week. Brett is gonna be here tomorrow to break it down, all that and more. For now though, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. I'll see you soon.